I am so honored and blessed to be your state treasurer. I can't tell you how much fun this is. It is just going up there to Augusta and telling the truth just gives the other side fits. Cheers! So when this opportunity presented itself, and we had about this much time to decide, I looked at my job, which I absolutely love. I looked at our state, and I looked at our country. And the conclusion I made is that we are so dependent in Maine on the federal government that unless we fix Washington, we'll never be able to fully fix Maine. So I am running for the United States Senate. I'm very excited about it, and I really appreciate everybody here who I know is a great supporter. Now, you all know Gordon Colby. Now, Gordon came up here and whispered to me and said, Bruce, don't you dare tell this fine group of people that you refer to me as the field marshal. So I won't tell anybody.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Bruce.
Gordon just left his company, leave of absence for a couple of months to start with, to be our volunteer coordinator and our field director. I am so thankful, Gordon, for you to devote this time. Folks just love you to death, and it is absolutely critical that we raise the money we need, which we are doing, and we reach voters, and we have folks on the ground working hard. And I know you all work very hard for us, and I really appreciate it. Now, let's just tell the truth here. The problem we have in this country, whether it be in Augusta or in Washington, is that government is just too big. It's too big and it's too expensive. And when it's big and expensive, you have to raise fees and taxes to pay for it. And when that happens, it means that our economic freedom erodes, our prosperity erodes, our way of life erodes. And someone tell me why we can't build a pipeline from Canada to the Gulf to help drive down the price of gasoline. I just spent $65 to fill up my car, $4 at the pump. And tell me why, when you have something called the United States Constitution, and you look at Article 1, Section 8, the Commerce Clause, and why does the federal government use the Commerce Clause to try to force down our throats services that we might not want to buy? We need someone who understands that, and someone who's going to go down to Washington and tell the truth. Now, who are you? This is really a family. Thanksgiving, people come and go and what have you. Just like family. Let's take a look at what happened when we went to Augusta about 15 months ago. And we have a great governor. He is tough as nails. He's got a heart the size of this room. And I'll tell you, I know what it's like not to win. But I also know what it's like the next day to go do the right thing and to work your tail off for someone who can make a difference in the lives of everybody in this state. And we are. So we walk into Augusta not knowing where the men's room is, the ladies' room is. In my case, the men's room. And ran into a $4.1 billion pension debt. Now, these were retirement benefits promised our teachers and our state workers years ago, but no one put enough money aside to pay for them. So they hand this to us and they say, oh, by the way, the annual payments to pay off this debt is choking our budget. So increasingly, you're going to have to decide if you pave the roads, educate your kids, or pay these retirement benefits. There was a small group of us that reformed it. Those going into the system have to retire a little bit later, 65 instead of 62. We slowed down the rate of growth in the benefits, and we eliminated $1.7 billion of pension debt. $1.7 billion. Now, the importance of that is because we don't have that debt over our heads anymore, we'll be spending about $200 million less per year going forward. And that allowed us to introduce, and with Les Falsell, Representative Falsell's leadership and others in the House and in the Senate, passed the largest tax cut in the history of the state of Maine, $150 million. So look what we're doing in Maine. We have private sector individuals who are not career politicians looking at the next election, saying we need to pay down debt, we need to get our spending under control, and we need to cut taxes. That's exactly what we should be doing in Washington. Instead of falling in love with windmills, that just drives up the cost of energy in the state, what we also decided to do with the governor's leadership is to look at how do we drive down the price of energy. Because regardless of the business that you're in, energy costs are absolutely killing us. So I'm very pleased to tell you that Treasury is right in the middle of this. And we're talking to financiers in New York and Boston and utility companies in Colorado to try to bring natural gas pipelines to the state of Maine. Now, we're a rural state. We won't get it everywhere, but let me tell you the benefits of this. There is a paper mill. It's actually not a paper mill, it's a pulp mill that makes the stew that we make paper out of, down by Calais in Baileyville. They just finished a 4.5-mile long natural gas pipeline. It connects into a pipeline that comes over from Canada. It costs about $15 million to build the pipeline. In 1 year, converting from oil to natural gas, they save $13 million. That is really smart. So why don't we have someone down in Washington who will look at these issues and say, you know, if you increase the supply of energy, whether it be oil or natural gas, you drive down the price. If you send me to Washington, that's exactly what I will do. The Keystone Pipeline and all kinds of other opportunities to develop our energy resources here in America, because not only is it killing our families at the pump, in our homes and our businesses, it's a national security issue. The Constitution makes it very clear we need to protect our homeland and our citizens and our way of life. It is very, very clear. And that's the oath you take in part. So we need someone who understands this, who's not going to fall in love with solar energy or wind energy. And when that time comes, more power to it. But to spend $500 million on Solyndra, we pay for it, and it doesn't work, we need to make sure we have folks that have private sector experience down there.
Thank God.
Thank God. Exactly. Now, when you look at Washington, now I know this is a Wednesday night, Stuart, and we have a wonderful weekend. We just finished Easter, so I don't want to upset people in this room, but I feel we've known each other for a while, so I'm just going to tell you some stuff and the facts are ugly. This is the 4th year in a row that our career politicians in Washington have spent $1 trillion more than they've collected from us in taxes. This is the 4th year in a row. You add that up along with past histories of spending more than we take in for a very long period of time, we now owe, as a country, $16 trillion. This is real money we owe. This is not funny money. Every year, we taxpayers pay $225 billion just for the interest payments. Interest rates are at a historic low. Can you imagine what happens to that number when rates start to rise? And they have. That is one of the 600-pound gorillas in the room. The huge debt, the huge interest to pay that debt with interest rates very low. Rates start to spike. We have a problem that is almost unmanageable. Because remember, the full faith and credit of the United States backs up the bonds that we sell to borrow the money. We must pay that debt, just like the state of Maine. The Maine Constitution makes it very clear. Everything else goes wrong. The first dollar that goes into Treasury that we count very carefully goes to those bondholders of Maine state bonds, people who have loaned us money. Now, what else is going on in Washington? 43% of our budget is comprised of 3 entitlement programs. 43%. Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. The problems in Maine that we've confronted that we're fixing are similar to the ones in Washington. Debt, spending, taxes, entitlements. So when we address the pension fund here in the state of Maine, we can do the same thing in Washington because Social Security is a defined benefit pension plan. Now, my mom receives Social Security. We're not trying to be mean to our seniors that have given so much to this country. We're trying to save it for them. Can we do that? Of course we can do that. These problems were created by people. They can be fixed by people. The right people who are fiscally conservative and who have a track record to prove it. Now, how do we fix Social Security? A couple of things we have to do. Raise the retirement age. And make it very clear, as I have with you folks showing you problems that we have in Augusta, very clear that some folks younger than 55 are not going to get out of Social Security what they thought they would. That's just the truth. The lines have crossed. We are now paying out more every year in Social Security checks than we take in payroll taxes to pay for it. Same with Medicare. Folks that are 65 and older qualify for Medicare. My mom is 83. I just shared this here a moment ago. Mom fell about a month and a half ago, broke her shoulder. And I was, heartbroken. She's 83, 88 pounds, and tough as nails. Big-hearted French Canadian. Mom relies on Medicare. Our goal is to save it for our seniors. But in order to save it, we have to address it. It is insolvent. Again, it is paying more out benefits than we're taking in taxes to pay for. So we need someone in Washington who is tough, who understands that when you start to change the culture and you start exposing things, you're going to get criticized. Governor Page knows that, and now I know that. I wear that as a badge of honor. The way I look at it is, unless you're doing the right thing, unless you're stirring the pot, unless you're exposing things, you're not going to get criticized. I know I'm doing the right thing. Let me show you one other thing. I carry this around with me. This is my prop. This is a piece of molding.
Nice.
Exactly. Unless you know it, you're in that business. This was brought to me by a contractor, actually a custom cabinet maker. Put it on my desk in Treasury about 2 months ago. It said, Bruce, you know where this came from? This came from a Maine State Housing Authority project. Because of the rules that we are now changing, this particular project was renovating an old historic building, which we love, happens to be in Waterville, my hometown, the Waterville Junior High School, Gilman Place. But because of the rules, this piece of very expensive, look at the grain on this, white oak from maybe 80 or 90 years ago had to be exactly replaced and milled exactly the same way, and you couldn't do it with pine. You're going to paint it anyway. Pine is a third of the price. You had to do it in white oak. Now, here's the bottom line. Those 34 low-income apartments in Gilman Place cost us $292,000 each. There is something very wrong with that when we have 6,500 families in the state of Maine that are waiting for affordable apartments, safe places to live and call home. It's very interesting that the criticism started coming my way when we started exposing these things to them. Here's my vision for our great state, for our great country. It's the same. Have a government that is smaller, one that we can afford,